The first 5 races of the season is over, but now F1 is moving to America for the first of 3 races in the United States. And the first one is the Miami Grand Prix, which is a sprint weekend, which means that once again it is time for my preview and predictions. This is the series I'll be previewing, and then at the end of the video giving out my early predictions for the Grand Prix. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. But now, let's get into the video. As usual, I'll be talking about the top teams later on, so please do stick around for that. Yep, F1 is heading to the United States for the Miami Grand Prix, which is now hosting its 4th Grand Prix, and the race in Miami is another sprint weekend, meaning that the teams only have the one practice session before heading into sprint qualifying on Friday. Then on Saturday, it will be the sprint race before Grand Prix qualifying gets underway for the main Grand Prix on Sunday. The Miami circuit is a purpose-built but temporary circuit that takes place around the Hard Rock Stadium, and it is technically a street race. The circuit itself is relatively interesting, as Sector 1 features some medium-speed corners with a long hairpin at the end, which is pretty much famous for Charles Leclerc crashing during qualifying a couple of years ago. Sector 2 is where the main overtaking spot happens down the long straight, before the heavy stop, which then follows a series of very tight and slow corners, before they get to Sector 3, where there is another large straight, before a big braking zone and the final couple of corners. Due to the nature of the circuit, teams will likely be running with a lower downforce setup like they did in Jeddah. As it is a temporary circuit as well, I anticipate that there will be a large amount of circuit evolution, meaning that the drivers will need to be on track at the right time during both qualifying sessions, or they could find themselves being eliminated. Due to the circuit being a street circuit, the asphalt as ever is relatively smooth, kind of like we saw in Jeddah, which is completely different of course to Bahrain. And because of this, Pirelli have opted to go a step softer with the tyres for this year, meaning that the hard tyre is a C3, the medium tyre is a C4, and the soft tyre is a C5 tyre. This is softer than last year's Grand Prix, but you can see that last year there was a total of 27 pit stops, as the majority of drivers opted to do a one-stop strategy, with a couple of doing a second stop with medium tyres and the hard tyres. Given that the tyres this year are a little bit more robust, even though they are a step softer, I anticipate that we will see the majority still do a one-stop race, unless there is a safety car to change their strategy. Overtaking at the Miami circuit is generally one of the easier places, despite the bad reputation that the circuit has, and last year there was a total of 41 on-track overtakes. To help with overtaking, the Miami circuit does feature 3 DRS zones. One DRS zone is down the main straight into turn 1, the second DRS zone is down the long straight in Sector 2, and the third DRS zone is down the long back straight in Sector 3. Unlike some of the other circuits, the 3 DRS zones are pretty spaced out, meaning that we don't really end up with DRS trains, which is why I think it tends to be one of the easier circuits to actually overtake on. Last year, the pole position lap time was set by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, and he set a lap time of a 1:27.241. During that pole position lap time, Max Verstappen managed to reach a top speed of 338 km per hour, which is also 210 miles per hour. In the Grand Prix itself, the fastest lap was set by Oscar Piastri in the Mclaren, and he set a time of a 1:30.634. With the tyres being more robust this year, and also a step softer, I anticipate that both of these lap times should be beaten fairly easily, especially of course as well, given that there is 1 year extra development. I just want to say if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get back to the video and let's talk about Williams and Racing Bulls. For Williams then, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was a good result, as Carlos Sainz seems to have finally gotten some form and found himself getting used to the car, as he finished in 8th place with Alex Albon in 9th place. The Saudi circuit though was one that suits their car very nicely, And going into Miami, I expect that it will be another fairly solid weekend from the team, but I do think they will be under threat, at least in qualifying, from Racing Bulls, as they look to be very strong at this type of circuit. However, for Racing Bulls, they still need to improve their pace in race trim, because for some reason for them, it always seems to come undone during the Grand Prix itself, and good qualifying performances tend to be squandered, and because of this, they still find themselves on just 8 points, when in reality, they should be a lot closer to the Williams team. So with that in mind, I expect that Williams should be stronger than Racing Bulls in race trim, even if Racing Bulls are faster in qualifying. For Ferrari then, Saudi Arabia was a fantastic performance from Charles Leclerc, and it was a race where I don't think he really got the credit that he deserved, as he scored Ferrari's first Grand Prix podium of the season, by managing to make the medium tyres last a lot longer in the race than anyone else, before switching onto the hard tyres and putting a very solid move on George Russell, and then fending off Lando Norris, who was on medium tyres. Teammate Lewis Hamilton again though had a tricky race and finished 30 seconds off of Charles Leclerc. Going into Miami, I can see this being a strong race for Ferrari. The circuit is one where they have historically been pretty good, with podiums in 2022 and 2024. The circuit, as I mentioned, features a few heavy braking zones, which during this era has been a Ferrari strong point, and it features plenty of slower corners, so I can see Leclerc going pretty well here. For teammate Lewis Hamilton, let's see if he has managed to adapt to the car and find some pace for the Grand Prix. If he has, then he could be a little bit closer, but if he hasn't, then it could be another tricky weekend for the 7-time world champion. For Red Bull then, Saudi Arabia was a much better performance, and honestly if Tsunoda had not collided with Gasly, then we could have potentially seen both Red Bull cars in the top 5, but Saudi Arabia and Miami are two completely different circuits, and Miami is going to be a much bigger challenge for them. The Miami circuit features plenty of slower speed corners, where they are still weaker than their rivals, and also the Miami circuit is considered more of a real limited circuit, and this is where they are struggling the most, and with that in mind, I don't think we will see a Red Bull on the podium this weekend, unless there is some chaos to help them get there. Verstappen is still on top form, and I expect that he will extract all of the performance that he possibly can from the car. The question is though, can he get a top 5 finish, or will it be like Bahrain, where he really struggled? In the sprint, Max will probably be fine, as he does tend to be pretty special in sprint races, but in the Grand Prix, I can potentially see them struggle just a little bit more. For Mercedes then, the Saudi Arabia race was an okay performance, but it was arguably their weakest performance of the season, as George Russell finished in 5th place, but Kimi Antonelli was at least in 6th place and looked fairly solid. It looked like really the car was not well suited to that circuit, but going into Miami, at least based on Bahrain, we should see a stronger weekend from the Mercedes team. I expect that we will see George Russell fighting for the podium, but I expect it will be a battle between him and Charles Leclerc. Kimi Antonelli is slowly getting better with each passing race, and he is fairly consistently beating Lewis Hamilton in the races. In Saudi Arabia, Antonelli finished just 7 seconds away from George Russell as well, so it's the closest that he has been to his teammate for quite a while. I expect that in Miami, Antonelli will be a little bit further behind George Russell, but he is definitely getting there when it comes to pace and performance now. Finally, for McLaren then, it was victory for Oscar Piastri, and with that, the Aussie driver has taken the lead of the Drivers' Championship from teammate Lando Norris. It was a very solid performance from Piastri, and really, he won it at the start with the move down the inside, and also a fantastic move on Lewis Hamilton after his pit stop. Teammate Lando Norris had to recover from a crash in qualifying, which saw him once again bottle it when the pressure reached its maximum over 1 lap. Going into Miami, I anticipate that it will be a very strong weekend for the McLaren team. It was the first race last year where we really got to see the potential that they have, and with it being a more real limited circuit, then I expect that Max and Red Bull will be less in the mix with them in the Grand Prix, and with that in mind, it should be a 1-2 result. The only question is, can Lando keep it together when it comes to qualifying and when it matters the most? So with that in mind then, what are my early predictions for the Miami Grand Prix? Well, I think that the top midfield team and midfield driver will be Carlos Sainz in the Williams, as Sainz is finally starting to be able to extract some real performance from the car. But what about pole position? Well, for pole position, I'm actually going to go for Oscar Piastri to take pole position in the McLaren. If Lando Norris can keep it all together, he is the faster driver still, and he should be the one on pole. But if he makes a mistake, like he has done a few times now, then it will go the way of Oscar Piastri, and that's why I'm actually going to give it to Piastri. But what about the top 5 in the Grand Prix? Well, in P5, I'm going to go for Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. P4, I'm going to go for George Russell in the Mercedes. P3 will be Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. P2 will be Lando Norris, and I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri to win the Miami Grand Prix. But those are my thoughts. The question is, what do you guys think will happen? In the comment section down below, please do let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.